Hello guys, welcome to my channel. Now you have a basic understanding of Nmap scanning techniques from the first video of, first part of Nmap basic commands. But for the purpose of this video, we need to explore more in depth. So without further ado, let's quickly discuss three-way handshake process. Normally, TCP traffic begins with a three-way handshake. In this handshake, a client initiates the conversation by requesting to have a communication session with the server. The client first sends a synchronization packet or SYN, and if the server accepts, it responds with a synchronization acknowledgement or SYN ACK to let the client know it's open and ready for communication. The client responds with an acknowledgement or ACK. Now, the session begins and the socket is created. In contrary, when you're doing scan from Kali Linux to our target machine, network or website, we don't need to complete the TCP handshake. It is because you want to have virtually undetectable scan against firewalls or IDS by altering timing and other options. There are so many scanning techniques available on Nmap, but I will discuss the most popular scanning technique in detail. First, let's discuss the SYN Stealth Scan. So Nmap-S and capital S and 192.168.195.129. So in SYN Stealth Scan, it is the most popular scan option for good reasons. And it can be performed quickly, which is scanning thousands of ports per second and not hampered by restrictive firewalls. And because it doesn't complete a TCP connection, it does not arouse suspicion. It is also relatively obtrusive and stealthy since it is never completes TCP handshake process. So Nmap sends SYN packets to the destination, but it does not create any sessions. Now let's move on to the second one, the TCP Connect Scan. Nmap-S and then capital T, then the target IP. This method of scanning is very effective and provides a clear picture of the ports you can and cannot access. If a connect scan lists of a port as open, you can definitely connect to it. That is what the scanning computer just did. There is, however, a major drawback to this kind of scan. It is very easy to detect on the system being scanned. If a firewall or intrusion detection system is running on the victim, attempts to connect to every port on the system will almost always trigger a warning. Indeed, with modern firewalls, an attempt to connect to a single port which has been blocked or has not been eventually specifically opened will usually result in the connection attempt being logged. Additionally, most servers will log connections and their source IP, so it would be easy to detect the source of a TCP Connect Scan. For this reason, the TCP Stealth Scan was developed. Third is UDP Scan. Nmap-S and then capital U, then the target IP. UDP Scan works in a similar way to the TCP Connect Scan, but uses UDP packets to scan DNS, SNMP, and DHCP ports. So these ports are UDP ports. It does not require any SYN packets to be sent because it is targeting the UDP ports. But we can make the scanning more effective by using the stealth scan along with the UDP scans. Our next scanning technique is NULL Scan. Nmap-S, then capital N, then the target IP. NULL Scan or adversary or hackers uses TCP NULL Scan to send packets without TCP flags. So this method is used to get the firewall to respond to the scan, and it uses a loophole in the TCP system that can reveal the status of ports without directly querying them, which means that you can see their status even they are protected by a firewall. That's why hackers are using this scanning technique. Then we have SYN Scan. Nmap dash S, then capital F, then the target IP. Sometimes a normal TCP SYN scan is not the best solution because of the firewall. IDS and IPS scans might be deployed on the target machine, but a firewall will usually block the SYN packets. FIN or a FIN packet is sent when a communication is finished, right? Then requesting that the connection be closed. A FIN scan sends the packet only set with a FIN flag, so it is not required to complete the TCP handshaking. And we have version detection scan. Nmap-S capital V and then the target IP. This may take too long to respond, the result. But version detection is the right technique that is used to find out what software version is running on the target computer and on their respective ports. It is unlike the other scanning techniques because it is not used to detect the open ports, but it requires the information from open ports to detect the software version. This information can be critical in determining an entry point for an attack. Additionally, we have TCP ACK Scan or Acknowledge Scan, Nmap-S capital A and then the target IP. It is used to check if a system is protected by a firewall or not. If no reset response is given from the target system, then the Nmap assumes that the target system is filtered. If the target system returns a reset response, it will be set as unfiltered. And ports being filtered is an indication that the system is behind the firewall. And so in this case, we have 1000 port unfiltered. So they are not behind the firewall because we are using VMware for our vulnerable machine. So unfiltered ports are most likely allowed through the firewall through specific ports or rules. The next one is quite interesting, idle scan. Nmap-S, then capital I, and then the zombie IP, the source of our scan, then our target IP. Idle scan is one of my favorite techniques. It's an advanced scan that provides complete anonymity while scanning. In idle scan, Nmap doesn't send the packets from your real IP address or the Kali Linux, instead of generating the parts from the attacker machine. So from the result, we can see that the scan is coming from the zombie IP 192.168.185.2, right? Then the target IP, right? So those are the results. Our next scan is the OS detection Nmap. So Nmap dash S and then dash capital O and then the target IP. So OS detection is one of the most important feature that Nmap has, is the ability to detect remote operating system and software. It is very helpful during penetration tests to know about the operating system and the software used by the remote computer because you can easily predict the known vulnerabilities from this information. So in this case, we have Linux 2.6.9. So we have Linux server. When we say OS detection, we have the so-called OS scan guess, right? So Nmap dash capital O and then dash dash OS scan dash guess and then the target IP. So OS guess scan finds the nearest match of the target operating system. It is very difficult sometimes for Nmap to detect the remote OS accurately, so you have the option for using this Nmap's guest feature. It is also a great or good idea to understand or know how to evade firewall. So we have nmap dash s and then stealth SYN, the capital S dash space dash capital P and 0, then the target IP. This is the syntax for the evading firewall. I mean, how to evade firewall. So many firewalls and routers block or drop the ICMP. So when you use Nmap to scan a system or network, by default, it sends out a ping to see if the host is up, and if it gets a response, it then sends the specified packets to scan the system. If the ping is blocked or dropped, Nmap gives up and say host is down. To get around firewalls and routers that block or drop the ping, we need to suppress the Nmap's default behavior of sending out the initial ping and get the firewall that is blocking us. We can do this by using the -po switch. Okay. It is a good practice for a penetration tester or a ethical hacker to redirect the output of their scan or Nmap to a text file or to XML file. So we have, for example, we have to scan the target IP using the version detection and the OS detection. Then to output it to a text file, you have to add the option -o and then capital N, then the file name. Okay, nmap output.txt. Okay, now we have the output of the version detection, the OS detection, and the stealth scan. So let's do ls, then let's check the output of the nmap output.txt. Okay, so we can now see the output of the scan. So we can go back it every time we want, right? So how we can output the file to XML file? We just need to change the N or the capital N to capital X, then the file name. So let's do nmap result. Okay, then we do ls and cut nmap result. See, we can now see the XML file. We can use text file, XML file, or the next one is the greppable output. It depends on the how you want to the output be formatted, right? So you might have an application how to extract the information from the scan. So for the greppable output, just change it to capital G, then the file name as well. Nmap greppable, right? Let's try the file name. Okay, and now we have to check the output of the nmap greppable. So let's do cut. Okay, so we have the text file, the XML file, and the greppable output. So or the greppable file. So those are different format with each other. So it depends on the tester how you want to do the output. Or if you want to scan specific port, in this case port 22, you can do it. Just use -p and then the port number 22. And that's for now. Thank you for watching. See you on the next video.